Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Agile Implementation Basics. Our guest speakers today are Mr. Rajshekhar Bhattacharjee, Vice President Product Delivery and GM, Covire India Operations, and Mr. Somanal Chaudhary, Manager Customer Solutions at Covire Software. Mr. Rajshekhar is responsible for Covire's product and service delivery, including product development, testing, quality, and support functions. He started his career working on business application development and information technology consulting and has worked across the SDLC in the development of several business applications and products in a variety of platforms and technologies. Mr. Rajshekhar has led the development of several new customer applications and products and has held various technical, project management, and senior management positions in Silicon Valley technology startups, SpeedEv Inc., and Genesis Technologies, as well as in software services companies like Datamatics, BFL, and PCL Mindware in India. He has worked with clients in India, Asia Pacific, and in the US, and has lived and worked in different parts of India and USA. Most recently, he has completed a 5-year tenure at IBM Global Services India, where he held competency development and delivery excellence responsibilities. He brings with him over 26 years of experience in various positions and companies in the software industry. After completing his graduation from Jadavpur University in computer science in 1985, he is also a BSc in physics. Our second speaker, Mr. Somanal Chaudhary, has been associated with Covire for more than 6 years, being involved in defining and developing solutions for Covire customers. His main focus is to provide on-site and offshore consulting services for complete ALM and omnibus integration solution implementation and managing projects for Covire products for the customers. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speakers. Over to you, Mr. Rajshekhar.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Covire webinar titled Agile Implementation Basics. First of all, let me welcome a number of companies and individuals who joined us in this webinar. Thank you very much for attending. I welcome each and every one of you to this webinar. And I am honored today to have this opportunity to share some of our thoughts on the subject topic and some of our experiences in the adaptation of agile processes in software development. I hope you will be able to relate to some of the challenges that we faced and the success factors that we subsequently summarized our experiences as. The presenters today are myself, Rajshekhar Bhattacharjee, and my partner, Somanal Chaudhary, who will be actually doing a short live demonstration of a Covire solution that is intended to show how some of the concepts can be implemented in practice using tools that are available in the marketplace today. I shall talk at top level and give some overviews of the real-life aspects of the adaptation of agile practices, and then Somanal will do a focused demonstration. In this webinar, we will focus on understanding the basics of agile methodology and the use of relevant tools for software development. As you know, while agile has been around for several years and more organizations are implementing it, not all of those who get started meet with success. It is therefore necessary to understand the success factors in the adaptation of agile before this implementation. To help understand the key points of my discussion in the next few minutes in the right context, I shall make an attempt to examine the journey of Agile from its beginning until now. It's hard to pick a year or even a short range of years at the beginning because these practices have evolved over a long period of time through groundbreaking work and publications of many famous individuals and organizations. But for our purpose, we'll take the publication of the Manifesto for Agile Software Development in the year 2001 as the beginning. In this journey of Agile from there until now, where it continuously evolved to cover a long distance from being associated with ad hoc non-critical development effort by co-located small teams to becoming one of the most sought after methods for development efforts involving quite often globally distributed teams engaged in delivering business critical applications of scale. In this context, we will try to understand why and how it worked for us and what has changed, or you will need to change from time to time, is how you apply and implement them in the most effective way, while keeping it simple and sticking to the basics. So, a very quick look at how Agile started, and we will, because you are all familiar with this, we will run through this section fairly quickly. So Agile is an umbrella term that includes various approaches, methods, and techniques that use short iterations and customer feedback so that the project team can keep up with the rate of progress as the requirements unfold and solutions evolve. What the customer sees is progress in terms of working software and not documents or status reports. Historically, Agile thinking started as a reaction to heavyweight methods, which were characterized by critics as heavily regulated, regimented, and micromanaged. The proponents of Agile argued to keep things simple. So proponents of lightweight methods contend that they are a return to the development practices from the early history of software development. So essentially it's going back to the beginning. We read it as keep it simple. Some of the well-known Agile methods are Scrum, Crystal Clear, Extreme Programming, Adaptive Softwares, etc. Now these are now typically referred to as Agile methodologies after the Agile Manifesto was published. Moving to the next slide. So Agile Manifesto has 4 main items in it. The key points, and you are all familiar with the manifesto, so key points to note about the manifesto is that it identifies just a few elements as key to the success in delivering value to the customer. And these key elements are individuals, interactions, working software, customer involvement in development, and change management. And the manifesto also clearly points how each of these are seen as more valuable compared to certain specific aspects of traditional heavyweight methods. So what is really important about this manifesto is that over the period of time, they have proved to be quite universal in nature, and they are quite open in nature and not in conflict with anything. It just says what it values over what compared to a traditional methodology. Now, these manifesto were based on 12 principles. Now, these principles, once again, you are all very familiar with. We might take a second to discuss the 10th principle, which is particularly interesting. So what it essentially says is the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, meaning get rid of non-essential things. Always think about what are the unnecessary tasks in your to-do list and defer them until the last moment. So get rid of the bells and whistles, eliminate waste, decide as late as possible, think of business value and economics. Now, So the essential principles are the frequent delivery of working software, efficient change management. Without that, you cannot respond to changes. Self-organizing and cross-functional teams that include the customer, and daily face-to-face conversation, which essentially requires the teams to be co-located, are some of the most fundamental Agile principles. Now, when you say self-organizing, it also indicates that the individuals in the team are motivated and empowered to make decisions and are knowledgeable. Moving quickly onto the next slide, successful Agile projects typically exhibit some of the following characteristics. So Agile methods break projects into small increments with minimal upfront planning. The team composition is cross-functional and self-organizing, and a cross-functional team means each iteration involves teams working in all functions, starting from planning to requirements and design analysis, design, coding, unit testing, etc. Now, Agile methods emphasize face-to-face communication over written documents. No matter what disciplines are required, each Agile team will have a customer representative. Now, this person makes a personal commitment to being available. So this is one of the key elements of Agile, which is very fundamental, and this is an area where most of the organizations make a misjudgment. So I bring your notice to this once again. So in every situation, unless there is a customer representative involved, that's the point where the deviation starts, and eventually you slowly but surely move away from being Agile, the objective that we started with. Now, most Agile implementation use a formal daily face-to-face communication. So face-to-face and frequent communication are the two things that have to be read together, and these are supposed to be very short, to the point meeting, and should last not more than 15 minutes. They are typically called stand-up meeting because standing up usually enforces the rule that people do not go on forever, any longer than necessary. Agile development emphasizes working software as the primary measure of progress and over status reports and detailed planning. And last but not the least, the specific tools and techniques, such as all the good things in software development lifecycle, such as continuous integration, pair programming, test-driven development, code refactoring, design patterns, feature-driven development, and other techniques. They are often used to improve quality and enhance project agility. So there is nothing specific about Agile except for the fact that Agile is open to all of this. Moving to the next slide. So, having gone through all of this, what is Agile after all? So Agile, when seen at a high level, is nothing but a clear set of guiding principles. You set up a project and run it in a way that embraces the guiding principle. And as long as the project exhibits the characteristics that are consistent with the characteristics of an Agile project, you can be rest assured that your project is indeed Agile. Specific Agile methods such as Scrum, extreme programming, etc. are concrete methodologies, although they are lightweight, with formal definitions of artifacts, roles, activities, tasks, etc. Now, if that is the high-level perspective, then what is the practitioner's perspective? So, in his book, The Extreme Programming Explained, Embrace Change, Kent Beck, who was one of the pioneers and a signatory to the Agile Manifesto, describes Agile methods as experiments in search of excellence in software development. To him, Agile methods have been and continue to be an experiment in answer to the question, how would you program if you had enough time? So he goes on to say that if code reviews are good, we'll review code all the time. If design is good, we'll make refactoring a part of our daily job. If unit testing is good, we'll write tests all the time. And that's what test-driven development is all about. If integration testing is important, then we'll integrate and test as frequently as we can, which is what continuous integration is all about. And everybody will test it, including the customers. So there is nothing unusual about that. What he says is that I'm doing Agile, and then if I have time, I'll do everything. But if I don't have that time, then I will decide what is the most efficient way of delivering the best value under the circumstances. And if everything is important, then how you prioritize decides how effective you are in the end when it comes to delivery. So going forward, moving to the next slide, if this is what Agile was right from the beginning till the way it is defined, then 10 years after the Agile Manifesto was published, some of the original signatories, and this time a much larger group of Agile followers and thought leaders, met once again at the same venue to do a retrospective on 10 years of Agile development. So they asked themselves this question: should the guiding principles be updated? That's very interesting. They actually went through all the 4 items of the manifesto one by one. And as you would see, that these were some of the very real and practical questions that all of us face every day in our quest for an answer to this question of, shall I adopt Agile? So the individuals and interactions over processes and tools, that was the first manifesto item. Now, as Agile grows in use, increasingly tools play a key role, and all of us can foresee that there is no going back. The question is there a conflict with the main manifesto theme? Working software over comprehensive documentation. So as we will see later in much more detail, the rapid adoption of Agile led to organizations very large in size from different sectors wanting to adopt Agile in multiple and complex situations. And some of them actually belong to the industries where documentation is crucial and is mandated. So the question is then, where does the working software over comprehensive documentation stand? Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. This works very well as long as we are talking about a software development effort in-house. But as soon as the work has to be outsourced to an external vendor or a partner, then contracts are important and they will form the basis of any engagement. So how do we ignore contract negotiation and instead prefer customer collaboration over negotiation? We cannot do that. And then responding to change over following a plan. So as we saw earlier, that Agile discourages making a long-term plan and starts, the emphasis is on getting on with the actual work with minimal upfront planning. But then all organizations, even if it is an internal project, will need a plan for funding. So those were some of the questions that they ask themselves. We know from our experience that those are the very real questions. So we'll see later, but to summarize, they found that the guiding principles were still universal. They did not have to be changed. But the group agreed on 4 key success factors for the next 10 years. So one is the demand technical excellence. So this once again is a reinforcement of the fact that Agile teams have to be self-organizing and empowered and experienced so that they can deliver quality software without direct instructions or much supervision. Promote individual change and lead organizational change. So many times as organizations embark upon adopting Agile for the first time, there are individuals in the organization and then the organizational cultures and procedures that need to go through fundamental changes. So, from one of my very personal and a very interesting experience. So I was working for a client that was adopting Agile, and at the insistence of the client, we started running the project in an Agile way, and the customer had rightly identified the stakeholders. Now, one of the stakeholders came back fairly early into the iteration cycles and saying that I don't want to review the parts of the application over and over again. What happened was that we were developing parts of the application in iterations, as is common, and the customer or the stakeholder who was used to reviewing an application once for all could not really reconcile with the idea, initially reconcile with the idea of having to go back to same page of functionality to notice an incremental progress. Similarly, there are organizational structures and procedures that do not live up to the flexibility and the agility that is a fundamental requirement of Agile. So these have to be undertaken at a very fundamental level, at a systemic level by the organizations if Agile they were to be successful with Agile. Organize knowledge and improve education. So it essentially goes hand in hand with the previous one, that with knowledge and education, it is only with knowledge and education and the long-term process that you can bring about those changes, and then maximize value creation across the entire process. So along with that, they also identified the total of 10 impediments against these key success factors. I do not want to get into the details of those 10 impediments within the short scope of this webinar, but one of the top impediments were that the teams actually lack enough backlogs. Most of the time it is found that they are not ready with backlogs, and there are lots and lots of reasons for this. And some of the important symptoms to this is, in some of the early stages, you make compromise with some of the key principles, and that's when, so you defer a review, and therefore you don't know whether you completed something or not, and therefore, even if you had actually not completed something, it does not make it to the backlog. This is just one example. There are other reasons that leading to a situation where your one sprint is done, you are ready for the next sprint, but you do not have enough backlog. So this is what I intended to cover as a short tour from the beginning until now of the journey of Agile. So I would summarize it as that Agile has some very well-defined basic principles that have to be adhered to without any compromise. No matter how scalable you want to make Agile in order to make it work for your organization. And the emphasis is always on keeping it as simple and as close to the basics as possible under the circumstances. Avoid unnecessary details at every possible cost. So now I move on to the next segment of my discussion, which is Agile at scale. So the rapid adaptation of Agile, actually Agile took the industry by storm when it first appeared on the landscape, and the widespread acceptance early in the days of Agile made a wide range of organizations to want to apply Agile technologies on large project teams, sometimes with hundreds of people, often geographically distributed in various environments and various complex situations. In other words, organizations started to push Agile beyond the small co-located team environments. That was what Agile debuted as. So the Scott W. Ambler, okay, Agile guru, and he has made many articles. He's written many articles on this, and one of his articles, Agility at Scale, identifies scaling and complexity factors. Facing projects using Agile. He observed that organizations want to apply Agile development to a broad set of projects. They are dealing with problems that require large teams, want to partner with other organizations, need to comply with regulations, etc. So the 8 scaling and complexity factors are team size, geographical distribution, regulatory compliance, domain complexity, organizational distribution, etc., etc. Now, so what's the bottom line? Bottom line, that's when Agile starts to get married with discipline. So industry experts and organizations are calling it by different names, but across the industry, people are finding ways of dealing with the scaling factor by maximizing, by mixing Agile techniques with aspects of other methods. And not surprisingly, Agile gets along very well in most such situations. So the bottom line is that the minimalist approach to Agile is unlikely to work with large and distributed teams. Tools and infrastructure will play a decisive role in the success of any scalable Agile adaptation. Methods in the class of Agile with discipline will continue to evolve. And ALM tool vendors, ALM stands for Application Lifecycle Management, the ALM tool vendors will continue to play an increasingly more important role as enablers in this process, as organizations will constantly look for newer tools to keep with the evolution of the methods. And number 2 is that they will always want to protect their investment in existing tools and infrastructure by plugging them into newer processes in ways that were not initially thought when those systems were put in place. So the question is that when you talk about tool, are we talking about standalone tools or integrated tools? Now for small co-located Agile teams, the standalone tools may often be sufficient, although integrated tools are clearly beneficial. However, when you find yourself in an agility of scale situation and one or more scaling factors apply, then you need to change your tooling strategy. Almost certainly go for an integrated tool strategy. So in the next table, we described how some of the scaling factors can affect your tooling strategies and suggested some products from across the industry that you may want to consider to enable you to address these factors most effectively. So once again, these are suggestive. So scaling factor is team size. So how do you deal with team size? It means in terms of tooling implications, you need greater integration, particularly around information sharing, automated metrics collection to enable effective governance, electronics modeling and planning tools required to share information amongst teams. So essentially tools that promote collaboration and dashboarding and supports lifecycle methods in a collaborative way. So the potential tools are Coviar ALM, our own tool with an integration bus, Microsoft Project for planning, then IBM, RSA, RSM, RRC, Requisite Pro, these are all for modeling and requirements management in a collaborative and a distributed environment. Geographical distribution, pretty much the same thing works. For regulatory compliance, you could use one of the collaborating tools, and also the requirements composer requisite pro, just to make sure that your requirement management and all of the trackings comply with the process requirements. Organizational distribution deals with the situations where the work involves teams from different organizations, such as in a client-owner situations, people from different teams, etc. So there, once again, the tools that could be applied are Cover ALM with integration bus, then team foundation server, subversion, perforce, clear case. These are some of the tool choices for configuration management and source control. Then for continuous integration and quality, once again, you have a whole bunch of tools in the industry, FXCOP, HP Quality Center, Hudson, TFS, Jira, that deal with different areas of continuous integration and quality, and you could use Cover Omnibus Integration Bus to integrate them. Very quickly moving into giving you a brief overview of what Cover is. We are both from Cover. Cover provides an integration of multi-vendor software development environments from requirements to release. So it offers platforms and services for integrating multi-vendor tools for a unified software development environment. It has an offices in Silicon Valley, India, and Australia. Cover's architectural framework. So Cover products, Cover has an application management framework that consists of task management, document management, time management, and also includes an entity framework based on which it has some built-in applications ready for use, such as ALM, Agile. Cover has a very powerful process management technology that allows you to define very powerful workflows, and it also has the application foundation services such as security, collaboration, etc. And all of this is wrapped around the Omnibus integration framework that we'll see in the next slide, that allows you to integrate all these tools, industry standard tools, among themselves as well as with Cover. So Cover Omnibus is a SWA-based integration technology platform. It offers data visibility across tools. It allows you to offer traceability between lifecycle objects in different tools, a very, very important criteria from many perspectives, from organization management to regulatory compliance. It also allows process automation across tool using the Omnibus process engine. Then, of course, last but not the least, it has dashboards and reports with consolidated data for meaningful metrics analysis. So, in the last slide, we are showing a whole huge array of industry standard lifecycle tools that are integrated with Cover Omnibus platform. So you can see from requirement management to design to coding to configuration management to build, Cover has an integration to most of the industry standard tools, which means that Cover as a platform offers you a choice of implementing a truly scalable agile platform using your existing and new market standard tools. With this, I now hand over to my colleague Shomanil Chaudhary for a demonstration. Welcome, Shomanil.
Thank you, Rajshekhar, for your presentation. After this, what is Agile from its basics from this PowerPoint presentation, let me take you through a quick brief of the Cover solution, that how the customers are benefited in their Agile environment. using our Coveware application. So Coveware is a 100% web-based application, and all the features and the functionalities of this particular tool is available across the browser. You do not need any separate tool to manage or configure the solutions. It just can be done by means of either an Internet Explorer or Firefox. So first, let me log in as an administrator of the solution and show you what are the different objects that are configured in this particular solution and what are the different information that can be tracked through this particular solution. So let me log in as an admin. So as I'm logging in as an administrator, you can see that this is the workspace where we have logged in as the Coveware Agile solution. This you can think of as the project as a whole that's being managed for this Agile solution. Now, this particular Agile solution consists of objects or entities like release, which is into which the project is broken down into. Sprints are the short iterations to which a release is being broken. Product backlogs are actually the work items or the functional requirements that customers or the different stakeholders like the analysts are tracking, getting from the customer request and tracking it in the application. Test cases and test sets are the test management entities used for test case creation, tracking, executions, and the defects arising out of this test is also being managed under the backlogs entity itself. Apart from that, task and timesheet are used for Coveware internal task and timesheet management system. And dependencies and requirements are two entities which have been used in a different purpose. For example, let's say while implementing a user story, there could be some dependency factors which are involved while developing a particular user story. Those dependencies could be some components that we are getting in from different external or external vendors, or could be internal or other groups. So we are tracking those under the dependencies entity. There could be some additional requirements apart from user stories. For example, the requirements with respect to data, the benefits. There could be some other non-functional requirements as well, which we are tracking under requirements. And in the process of time, we can link these dependencies or the requirements to the user stories or the product backlogs. So as you can see from the list that release 3.0 is currently the release in progress, and it's started from July and it's to October. So don't go by the date. It's a sample data, might be confusing at certain stages, but it's only for relevant test data. So once we go into the release details, this is the release custom form, and you can see apart from these dates, the plan started and the plan finish date are the two estimated started and finish date for this release. And with respect to the release, here there are certain sprints that it is being linked to, out of which the July and the August sprint have been completed, and as you can see, September sprint consisting of 4 weeks duration is currently in progress. Now, this particular sprint is having user stories and the defects linked to it, and the total number of user stories consists of story points sum up to 82, whereas as of now the delivered story point as of yet is 34. So these are the sprint, these are the backlog items under this particular sprint, as you can see. So if I say group by type, so group by backlog type, and we are using a particular filter user stories which are assigned to this current sprint, you can see that two different types of backlogs are there. One is the user story. If we change this filter to all backlogs, you will be able to see certain defects also linked to this particular sprint. So you can have an expanding collapsible feature to this particular relation list by means of which you can view the data. Now, each of these user stories are associated with an urgency and a business value. Each of these urgency is associated with a weightage factor. For example, you can see this one is moderately time constrained, which is having a weightage factor of 3. At the same time, this particular business value for this user story is 2. So it's important to only few customers. Based on this urgency and business value comes a product which is 3 into 2 is 6. And this priority value eventually helps to prioritize the list of user stories when they are assigned to the team and they proceed with the development. So based on this, the team decides what will be the priority along with the product owner to the working with this particular items in the user story. Now, let me take you to the details of the user story and show you what are the different items that we are tracking over there. So as you can see, these are the different attributes of the user story, and it's currently assigned to a particular release, a sprint. It is having an urgency, and based on the priority value, which is the product of urgency and business value, there is a set of process guidelines automatically calculated from the system. And you can see, since it's 25, it's internally pulled up from the system that what are the things that need to be done with respect to this user story. For example, it's critical, it must be done immediately, and it also requires some executive approval. Apart from this, a user story is assigned to the product owner. Product owner is responsible for this particular user story, who is Bobby, and this is the team who is responsible for implementing and completing this user story, and these are the members who are part of this particular team. Also, you can see that this particular user story has an estimated effort, and this effort is being calculated based on some external mechanisms. You can export the data to MS Project. We already have an integration with MS Project add-in, so you can transfer this user story to an estimation over there and import it back into Power. At the same time, you can use some estimation mechanisms like the planning poker and all to estimate the size of the user story, and based on that, you can eventually put forward it to the team to proceed further. On the other, the user story is linked to some dependencies, and this is the relation section which shows what are the dependencies it's linked to. You can see that these are the dependency factors, like the event APIs and the trend reports are two of the dependency factors, the components that we are expecting from some external source that has been delivered. And also there is an internal system interface, maybe developed by some other groups, and that's being denoted as the internal system interface. Apart from that, it's also linked to some requirements, and this particular requirements could be of types benefit types, it could be of type SR or data. And also the user stories are further linked to some tasks, which eventually the team lead creates as and when the product owner approves it and asks the team to move forward with it. So if we go with particular filter all tasks, you will be able to see different tasks being created with respect to each of the users who are members of the team, and tasks like UI design, coding, unit testing, with respect to which each users have worked on over a period of time. So now, with respect to this particular scenario, what I'll do is I'll quickly log in as an analyst and briskly take you through how he is working with the backlog, and at times he's entering a user story, and how the particular user story is going through the phases, and how the product owner is working with it, approving, estimating, and finally it gets to the team for taking it forward with their task being assigned. So let me log in as analyst. Alan is playing the role of analyst, and let me check with this. So as Alan logs in, let me quickly take you to the product backlog section, and we have configured our product backlog entity by 4 different categories of items. The different categories of items are, it starts with an epic, which is a very raw level customer story or a very high level requirement that we receive from a user. And you can say that Outlook integration is such an epic, and an epic is broken down into a number of features which eventually are more of some business level requirements based on which you can see that contact management, task management could be some relevant features that has been deduced out of this Outlook integration topic as an app. We further drill down, and you can see that this feature is again broken down into number of user stories. So categorically, we have started from an epic, we have broken it down to features and to more understanding elements like the user stories, which we are very familiar with, like the functional requirements. And then from there, it is further broken down into work items for the team, which we call it as tasks. So at this particular level, you can see that this is a Cover traceability view page, allowing you to view a hierarchical architecture of all the artifacts that are involved and how they are linked to one another instead of the different category items belonging to the same product backlog entity. So let me now quickly go back and create a new user story. So as an analyst, I might have interacted with a customer, and at this level, I go ahead and create a new user story. So a unique feature of Cover, it allows you to create multiple custom forms for multiple categories of items. As you can see, there are 3 forms corresponding to each of the entity types. I'll select the user story form to enter a new user story. So the user story could be going something like this. Let's say as a lead, I would be able to reassign tasks. Okay, and I select the urgency as extremely time constraint, and out of this I can select it as extremely important. Product owner is the Bobby. Expand the description tab. Cover provides a rich text description field, and you can put in rich text formatting features corresponding to this, and you can apply formatting features to the description. You can also link images to the description field, and we finally go ahead and link this user story to a feature. So this is a relation section by means of which we can associate features. So relating this to the task management feature. Additionally, Cover provides separate system sections to attach files to a particular user story. Not only files, it also allows you to associate a URL, or you can also associate some notes to the attachment section. Additionally, with respect to the stakeholders to collaborate on a particular user story, you can provide in comments, and which can be used for future reference. So as an analyst, let's say this is extremely important, and we go ahead and save this. So as far as the analyst is being concerned, he has submitted the user story, and currently this particular user story is available through the filter called unassigned stories, because it is not yet been assigned to a particular release or to a particular sprint. So on expanding this particular filter and the view, you will be able to see that the user story has been assigned to the unassigned story section. So once a user story is being submitted by the analyst, it is automatically generated an email to the product owner to look into this user story and work with this. So you can see as the product owner's inbox is very well understanding that there is a user story being submitted with the title, can see the description, the business values. So let me log in as the product owner to the system. So Bobby is the product owner. Let me log in as Bobby. Now Cover allows you to configure different landing pages for different groups of users. Now, as you can see, once Bobby logs in, he is taken into a dashboard by means of which he can see the different aspects of the project that's currently going on. A velocity graph reflecting that what are the delivered story points with respect to each of the sprints. Here is a burn-down chart corresponding to the current ongoing September sprint that you can see, and the total estimated effort is 262, and currently it says to finish it's 134 additional efforts are required to be done. Also, you can see that there is the distribution of user stories in a tabular format where user stories are grouped by sprint as well as it's grouped by status. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go into the product backlog section and work with that particular user story. So let me search for the user story that I recently submitted. So here is my user story, and I can, as an admin or as a product owner, I can go in and assign it to a user story and assign to a release and sprint. So I assign it to release 3.0, and here the sprint relation lookup is filtered based on the release that I select. So I select the September sprint, I assign it to the Omega team, and also based on some estimated size I have calculated, I put this as 26, and maybe based on the data that I pulled in from this project, it is supposed to take around 20 hours to complete. So with this information, I approve this particular user story. And to provide it at a rank, so what I can do is I have facilitated by a bulk edit operation facility called multi-edit in Cover, and based on that, here you can see I would be able to see all my user stories in one shot from this multi-edit view using the filter that what are the user stories that are currently in my sprint, and from here I can see that this is the current rank that's going on, and this priority value for this one is 25. So currently I can rank it to at 1 or 2 level. So a rank is being provided, and it's currently being approved. At this particular time, if I log in as the team lead of this particular team, that's Omega team, you would be able to see that Tom manager, who is a team lead for this Omega team, already has got a task to create, has already received an email notification to create tasks for the different users. So if I go into the messages section, you will see that a notification email has already been in his account to create a task for it. So what I'll do is I'll go into the user story, and under the task section I'll quickly create some tasks. So I select the user story view, and user stories in the current sprint. I scroll down. Here is my user story. Let me click create some tasks. So here is my task section. And let me go ahead and create a few tasks. So I'll create a task for Margaret developer to develop this particular user story. So here is my user, the list of user, and I feel that it would take let's say 8 days, 8 hours to complete this particular user story. So save this, and this appears as a linked task under this particular user story. So here is a task that's been created. Let me go ahead and create a new one. So let's say another task is, let's say, test, and let's say this is assigned to tester, and assuming that this would take around, let's say, 10 hours of testing. Save this. So 2 tasks been created by Tom manager, but Bobby as the product owner, if at any point of time wishes to see that what are the tasks or the work items that are required, Cover provides a facility to look into that through its task board. So going into the task board page, Bobby can very well look into that what are the different tasks that has been created with respect to this user story. So if I scroll down, here is the user story that I created. Currently it's in the approved stage. It's supposed to take 26 hours of estimated time, and these are the 2 tasks that has been created. Now if I log in as Mary, if I log in as Margaret, again as a developer I would be able to see the task that has been created for me. So as a developer I can work from my task from Cover, and this is the task that you can notice. I can work on this task, and at the same time I can put in some timesheet effort also. So let's say after working in for some time, and I can go into the time entry, and let's say I can enter some time sheets. For example, let's say I have worked for 2 hours on this particular task. So submit, done. Now let's say Margaret is actually working from the Eclipse environment. So I can actually show you that these tasks created from the Cover Agile solution are available to the Eclipse environment also through the Eclipse Cover add-in that we have, based on which the developers working from Eclipse doesn't need to come to Cover to view the details. They can very well get the user stories and the tasks from the Eclipse environment, and they can actually work from there also. So let me connect to this, and I am logging in as Margaret developer. And here you can see this is the tasks list. So it shows all open tasks. Click code. I would be able to see the developed task for Margaret. So let's filter it by my open tasks, so that only it enlists. Here is the task. So let me modify this and update the status. So currently it's in the not started stage. Let me put it into in progress and save this, so that you will find that this particular task is updated into the task board as well. So if I come back into Bobby's list and do a refresh of this particular task board, you will find that the Margaret task has proceeded under the in progress stage. So here you can see it's in the develop stage. At the same time, the task board has facilities to drag and drop tasks from one group to another. Similarly, I can drag it and drop it into the other sectors as well. So not going into the details of the other tasks, now let me quickly show you how you can actually deduce test cases from this test management system. So over here, let me log in as a tester to show the different test cases that you are having at this particular level. So let me log in as a tester into the application. So I'll not go into the details of how you can create test cases and all, but I'll quickly browse through the different test cases and how you can execute it to create test runs and all. So here you can see that this is a particular test case previously created, and this test case has a couple of test steps. On execution, this test has rendered a number of executions over a period of time, and based on the run, a defect has also been created on the execution of this particular test case. So as and when the test run execution has failed, as any of the steps has failed, a defect has also been created out of this. So here you can see a defect on one hand is also linked to this particular user story. So since there is a crunch of time, I couldn't show you much of our test management, but we can obviously have a more detailed session on this. So now let me take you back to our traceability view to show the different entity items that are linked and that we have linked using this particular flow, and show you how or what are the different hierarchical items that got linked to one another. So if I'm going into the product backlogs list, let me log in back as the administrator. So here is the release traceability, and we have a complete release traceability view over here. So the release traceability view. So let's take this particular release 3.0 and proceed it forward with this. So you can see the release is having a number of sprints into it. Drilling down the September sprint, you can see it is linked to a number of user stories. If you are drilling down this particular user story, number 9, you will find it's linked to tasks on one hand, to features on the other. So here you can see that this particular user story is linked to a number of features, number of tasks. It's also associated to a test case. It's associated to some features. As you can see, if we expand this task, it's having the epic link to it underneath. So here is the epic. If we expand this test management part, you can see that this particular test case is associated to test runs, and it's taking a little bit of time in opening up the test run information under the test case. So here are the test runs, and under the test runs you can also have the defects. Now moving to the dashboards, from Bobby owners, a user can have multiple dashboard pages, number of dashboards, multiple dashboards can be assigned to a single user. So the earlier dashboard that I showed you is the dashboard related to the information of sprints. You can also configure dashboards related to user stories, which is more focused to the epic features of user stories, and information like how the backlogs are distributed, or the business value or urgency. You could have distribution matrix, and you can bring in some information like enable rotation, or you can say enable slicing movement, and you can expand this so the slice gets out of there. So all these needed features are available. Each slice is having drill down facilities, and these functionalities and features are available across all these graphical items, the graphical gadgets that are available into the dashboard. So each of these items, as you can see, not only a single entity data, but you can also have reports coming in from multiple cross-entity information, and you can see here it's showing a report where user stories reflects whether they are already been covered by any test cases or not. So such a report can also be very useful from the management perspective to see what are the requirements which are covered by test or not. Another could be something specific related to test and defects. So Power allows you to create such reports and include it in the dashboard. I didn't go into each of the reports to specifically talk about the different reports, but showed you dashboard by means of which the total consolidated of different kinds of report that Cover allows you to create are visible, and you can understand the power of dashboard capabilities from Cover. So with that, I conclude my presentation and open and keep myself and Rajshekhar open for any of the queries that you have from your side. Thank you. So over to Rajshekhar. Thank you.